I'm going to show you one simple trick or tip that will help you take a cheap tent. You know, most people buy a cheap tent and last them maybe a season, maybe 2 seasons if they're lucky, before it starts to rip or tear and they have to throw it away and buy a new tent. So I'm going to show you how to take a relatively inexpensive tent and use something else with it to extend its life. What is going on, guys? Adam Katz for the Hardcore Camping Gear channel, the channel where we explore and review the camping gear that you need to be self-contained, self-reliant, and most of all, comfortable camping in the outdoors without having to spend tens of thousands of dollars on an expensive RV or travel trailer. Let's get into it. Now, you may be thinking that I'm talking about a waterproof spray to apply to the rain fly, or maybe taping the seams of the tent. All great ideas. But if you're absolutely new to camping, you may have had a problem with your cheap tent. And I'm going to show you how to fix it, and it's going to extend the life of your tent. Stick with me. Now, this is the Kelty Grand Mesa 4 tent. It's an earlier version. I've had this for, I don't know, probably about 10 years or so, maybe a little bit more. And haven't used it extensively, but it's a decent tent. Now, I took everything out so you can see everything out of the bag. So you can see you've got the rain fly here, you've got the tent, you've got the poles and the stakes, a little repair kit. But you notice that it's missing one thing. If you're an experienced camper, this is going to be old news, almost to the point of being self-evident. But to a lot of new tent campers, they don't realize that when you buy a more economical tent, it typically doesn't come with one of these. Well, this is a tarp, but what I'm talking about is a ground sheet, or sometimes called a footprint. See, if you just use a tent like this, and you put it on the ground and there's rocks or sticks or debris, it has a tendency to poke through the bottom of the tent. So what you want to do is you want to get just a cheapy tarp. You can get these pretty much anywhere, at Home Depot, hardware store, Tractor Supply, and try and fit it to the diameter, as close to the diameter of your tent as you possibly can. You're gonna, what I do anyways, I set up the tent first without the fly, throw down the tarp, move the tent on top of the tarp, and then put the ground fly on it. Just a little bit easier doing it that way. What this does, a lot of people think that the footprint is designed to keep water from coming up through the floor of your tent, and that's not actually the case. It's more about site selection, where you choose to pitch the tent. Having the footprint or the ground sheet underneath your tent prevents the debris and the sticks and the rocks from poking through and ripping the bottom of the tent, which is a real issue. By the way, guys, Leatherman Sidekick, these things are great. Leatherman all the way. Yeah, there's no food in here. There's no food in here. This is just a tarp. There's no food. There's no food, Chowhound. All right, let's open this thing up. So the disadvantage here is that the tarp is not quite big enough to cover the entire floor of the tent. This is going to help. Now, if the tarp was too big for the tent, what I would do is fold it under, because what happens is if the edge of the tarp, here, let me show you. So if you set it up like this, it seems like it might make sense, because then you know, you can leave your shoes out here and not track dirt into the tent. But the problem is, if it does rain, what tends to happen is that the rain will hit the tarp and then slide under the tent. So what you'd want to do is fold this over or fold it under like that, so that it's underneath the actual tent itself. So this one, because it's smaller than the tent, I'm just going to put it like that. Now for this tent, next time I'm at the hardware store, what I'll do is, well, before I leave for the hardware store, I will take interior measurements of the bottom of the tent and then find a tarp that's probably just a little bit, maybe a foot or two bigger, so that I can then fold it underneath. I mean, it'd be great to find a tarp that would actually fit exactly the footprint of the tent, and sometimes the tent manufacturers will sell those separately. For example, like my T4, my Gazelle T4 tent actually came with the tent, but that was a little bit more expensive tent. So again, trust me on this, it's much easier to put the rainfly on after you've got the tent itself and the footprint, or in this case the tarp underneath it, set up. Well, there we go guys, we've got the tent and the rainfly staked out on top of our improvised ground sheet footprint, and we are good to go, ready for some hardcore backyard adventure camping. Well, we're still in lockdown, so cut me some slack. But hopefully this has been helpful. We cut back to me in the Hardcore Camping Gear office. Hey, thanks for watching, guys. I would love to hear in the comments down below what you guys do to extend the life of your tents. And by the way, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you'll be the first to know when we come out with new content. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next one.